Filmcast Without a Cause goes farming with Steven Soderbergh's second-to-last film, Side Effects. In the news, I called it, Chris Pratt is going to be in a Marvel film, Star Wars standalone movies, and Bruce Willis is not done playing John McClane. After the feature review, we pack up our DVD box sets of Die Hard with the FWOAC Franchise flashback installment of Live Free or Die Hard. There's plenty of yippee-ki-yay in this episode, so let's get right to it. Let's FWOAC.
Hello and welcome to yet another February edition of Filmcast Without a Cause. I'm Jacob Rosdale.
And I'm Patrick Boberg, and though we are a duo, we would not mind being a trio. If you want to leave a comment for us, you can call the FWOAC phone or feedback on filmcastwithoutacause.com. Any type of message you want to get to us, you'll find a way to do it on that website, and we'll get it into next week's show.
Happy Mardi Gras, Pat.
Is that today?
Today is Lune de Gras. Or something. We're recording this on Monday, but I was just speaking...
I never put two and two together that Mardi Gras is French.
Yes. So if you know your French, we're recording this on Lune de Gras, and then Wednesday or Tuesday. I don't know what day Mardi Gras falls on, but I know tomorrow's Fat Tuesday. So, but your Mardi Gras came early with like huge film news, correct?
Yes. Are we talking about Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah, you posted on, I believe it was Google Plus. You were speaking all sorts of hyperbole about the big Guardians of the Galaxy announcement.
Oh, just that, a couple weeks ago I watched James Gunn's Slither, and I kind of thought he was like the exact man for this type of comic because it is kind of goofy, especially with the characters. And then, of course, this week, or last week, as some people probably know, Parks and Rec Chris Pratt is signed up to be Star-Lord, the leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And if you've read the comics, he's a little bit of like, kind of like a jerk version of Spider-Man with his, comments. Or maybe like Bruce Willis in space.
He's a rogue.
Yes. So I think it's perfect casting. I remember back in, maybe it was our premiere episode.
It was our pilot episode.
I was talking about Chris Pratt in something special. I can't remember what it was.
We were discussing at that time there was going to be a reboot of the Daredevil comic book.
Well then look at that.
And
look at that.
Now he does find his way into the Marvel Universe. And people may wonder why we talk about Guardians of the Galaxy so much. Are we huge fans of Guardians of the Galaxy? No, it's just that it's a Marvel movie and we're big comic book fans. And this is like the unknown. That's why I'm excited about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah, this is the complete unknown. If any of the movies that have come before here that could be a mirror to this, the only one that you can think of might be Blade, because he is not anywhere near known all of the other characters that are Marvel. And in fact, many people don't even know that Blade is a Marvel comic.
Yeah, and you called this Chris Pratt thing. I mean, to give you credit, in the pilot episode, you said he would be a good superhero, and I laughed it off because I had known him mostly from Parks and Recreation, where he's kind of a schlub. And you cited, this was before Zero Dark 30 even, you cited his role in Moneyball as showing his star potential.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy who delivers the chuckle. If anything he's ever doing on Parks and Rec is completely off the wall, but that movie alone led me to believe there's something in there. And of course, he's been in movies and been kind of a flop, like if you've seen Take Me Home Tonight. But this and Zero Dark 30, those two movies make me think that he's going to knock this out of the park.
And it kind of hints that this will have a comedic tinge to it. Even though Chris Pratt, I remember before Parks and Rec, he wasn't really known as a comedic actor. He was like on Everwood. He was just a WB star, a handsome guy. So, and then people are like, oh, he's going to be on this comedy. He's not funny. And he's one of the funniest characters on that show. It's hard. Well, everyone's pretty hilarious on that show. But I think this could be what really breaks him out. I'm really excited for this.
For the hyperbole that Jacob was mentioning, I said it was the best casting since Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I'm that much on board.
And even I still saw, like, even on last week's Parks and Recreation, I saw him, and I still thought he looked pretty schlubby compared to what he looked like in Zero Dark 30. So I don't know what their filming schedule is, or maybe he just packs on the pounds while he can to play the Andy Dwyer character.
Well,
But
there's something going on because I saw on his Twitter feed that he is actually trying to hit 300 pounds for some reason. So he must be in some movie that he's doing that's not announced on IMDb. He must be gaining weight because it's insane how big he is at the moment.
maybe it's for Star-Lord. I know there was a photograph that was on Entertainment Weekly, and maybe they got it from his Twitter feed. I've seen it elsewhere on the internet, where it's just like one of those pictures that conceited people take of themselves in the mirror, but you don't want to think that about Chris Pratt. But it's like him in his tighty whities, and he's like ripped. And it was like that. He's in awesome shape. I mean, not that you have to be somewhat physical to be a superhero, obviously, unless you're Paul Giamatti cast as the Rhino in the Amazing Spider-Man sequel. But yeah, no, he's probably going to prove what kind of range he has with this role. So yeah, I'm in with you. I don't know if I'm going to go to RDJ Robert Downey Jr. level hyperbole yet, but yeah, I'm in definitely.
Well, he's definitely got the moxie to bring that I didn't have behind Chris Evans or even who's the gentleman who plays Thor?
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth. So I didn't think they had any sort of range, but Chris Pratt, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see lots of Chris's on that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now that you mentioned that. Staying within the stars, we're going to be as generic as movie news as possible. The other big news this week, probably even bigger news than Chris Pratt, but that's what we wanted to talk about. Disney confirmed anyway, that they are going to be making standalone Star Wars films to sprinkle in with it in between episodes, episode 7, episode 8, like standalone films. And Lawrence Kasdan of The Empire Strikes Back is going to be writing one. I guess that's what Simon Kinberg is going to be writing as well. So when they were announced as consultants last week, or whenever that J.J. Abrams announcement was made, it's because they need to keep working in the same universe, much like what they're kind of doing with Marvel, building literally like several
horizontally.
films. Yeah,
building
horizontally.
out.
And immediately it kind of got buzzed of what the films were going to be about, and they all seemed kind of in the prequel mindset, actually. The first rumor I heard was that it was a Yoda standalone film was being talked about, and then the most obvious being a Han Solo standalone film, or young Han Solo, and Boba Fett was talked about. I don't know, Pat, we've talked kind of about Star Wars, but how big are you a fan of Star Wars, really?
I enjoy it. I'm not a mega fan, and I don't dress up. I don't own a lightsaber. In fact, I haven't owned an action figure since I was a kid. I enjoy it quite greatly, but I really don't want to see a Yoda movie.
Yoda is my favorite character, and I don't even want to see a Yoda movie.
I don't even know if I want to see a Han Solo movie, to tell you the truth. It's one of those things where the less you know, maybe the better.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly if Boba Fett, who is a supremely popular character. I mean, you see Boba Fett stuff anywhere, and the guy has maybe 3 lines, if that, in the original trilogy. He's a little kid in the prequel, so that doesn't count. But if they have a movie where he's like cracking wise or whatever, that's going to ruin that character forever. So
yeah, maybe it'll be something along the lines of George Clooney and The American, where he'll have so little dialogue that people will be okay with it, because what if he ends up having a voice like Mike Tyson?
That's the best thing that they can do, actually, is I know not Jack Johnson, that's the surfer musician guy, but Joe Johnston, the guy who directed Captain America and created the Boba Fett, or at least designed the Boba Fett character way in the long ago, talked about how he wanted to direct a Boba Fett movie. So I hope that happens, and I hope they go the no dialogue route, give them, surround them with characters who can talk or whatever. But I'm probably, of those 3 that are being rumored about, that's the one I'm most interested in if they do it right. But if they do it wrong, it could ruin things forever. Any characters or peripheral Star Wars stories you'd actually like to see?
I think the only way that I might be interested is if they brought Darth Vader back and did have you heard the video games of The Force Unleashed?
Yes.
He's got like another apprentice that's kind of like the the opposite of Luke, where he's training this guy to be like a mega dark side guy.
Yes.
I never really played the game very much, only a couple times, but I thought that concept was pretty cool, was the apprentice to Darth Vader.
If they can find a way to make Darth Vader cool again after the prequels, I'd be all for that. Or even if it requires doing more prequels. I would rather, besides Boba Fett, I'd rather see them take one of the obscure bounty hunters like Dengar, the guy with all the bandages,
Mm.
or Zuckus, who is a insect-looking dude. I'll probably be corrected on that. I might be getting my my bounty hunters mixed up.
Well, if they're going to go that crazy, why don't they just go with the story about the beast that lives in Jabba the Hutt's chamber that he feeds everybody to? And, where does that
Oh,
beast come from?
what? Oh, I used to know his character's name too. Oh man, Salacious Crumb. That's that's that
Oh, my.
character's name. I'm still not the biggest Star Wars nerd yet. I know that because I've been around Star Wars nerds enough in my life to pick up things like that. And I was actually excited when there were rumors that Zack Snyder was going to direct the Seven Samurai with Jedi movie. That's the kind of stories I think they should be doing, not taking establishing characters and adding more. As you say, the more you know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know about midichlorians. I don't want to know that Han Solo came from a broken home or anything. Just give me a cool story with lightsabers. That's what they should be doing.
Maybe the whole Han Solo movie will just be the Kessel Run or whatever that's called.
And it'll probably be about him getting the Millennium Falcon from Lando. And then we get cool young Lando. That would be an advantage.
But no Billy D. Williams?
Yeah, well, maybe
How could they do that?
maybe in the world of mocap they can have Billy D. Williams.
Or maybe him and Han Solo will just be like sitting by a lake, and it'll be like that old Lions movie where they're just whittling sticks and they're recounting the Kessel Run and remember when you took the Millennium Falcon? Whatever.
Old Han Solo movie that might be a little more interesting than young Han Solo. Maybe it'll be, and that just makes me think of young Indiana Jones. And when you're nostalgic, you think that young Indiana Jones was good, but if you go back and watch those, they are not very good. But I don't know. I'm still optimistic of the potential of the Disney Star Wars era, but they could flood the market really easily.
Wouldn't it be an awesome misdirect if they let J.J. Abrams come in and just redo the entire prequels? Just be like, let's do this better. You guys deserve more than this.
This wasn't in our agenda or anything, but I'm going to throw this out at you. The X-Men movies, there's going to be a new one. It's going to involve both casts. And famously, X-Men The Last Stand is considered not a good movie. Do you think this whole past and time travel thing with the X-Men is to retcon X-Men The Last Stand? Do you think there's any potential that they could do that?
It would be a dream come true if they did, just because I love the X-Men. That's probably my all-time favorite comic team. But I don't know. I'm a little worried about all that nonsense and just... I don't know. Just kind of like I'd rather just said that was garbage and we're never going to do something like that again.
Yeah, but if he wanted to do the Dark Phoenix saga his way, or if he wanted him being Bryan Singer, the guy who directed the first two films and is directing this new one, or bring Cyclops back to life, they could say, because Days of Future Past is about an evil future that came to pass, and it's all about the X-Men trying to stop that future. The Last Stand being that future, it's a possibility.
But then the Wolverine is supposed to be about post Last Stand, so I don't know how they could do that.
That also occurred to me. They'd have to also retcon the Wolverine, which will hopefully be good. I didn't mean to get us on that tangent, Pat. So let's move on.
Well, maybe for our last story here, Jacob, not to get too close to our franchise flashback, which we had the fourth installment this week with the Die Hard series, but I think I sent you this story that said, after Bruce Willis was on the show, the BBC One show, and simply asked if there would be another Die Hard movie, and he just said yes.
As long as they write him a check, I'm sure Bruce Willis will say yes to anything.
Can you believe this?
Oh, before the fifth one even comes out. That's the incredible thing. Like, he's probably in no place to, unless he signed a contract that none of us have seen that guarantees a sixth one.
This makes me think of when Rambo was initially made, there were all sorts of people cast before Sylvester Stallone, and everybody wanted it to be true to the book, where Rambo dies in the end, and they all quit because they wouldn't change the script. And this is just one of those things where it's like, well, they're not obvious. Nothing's going to happen to Bruce Willis in this movie, so who cares?
Yeah, we know he's not going to die. And did you actually expect that it's possible? Because this seemed like a passing of the torch movie, the way it's being promoted a little bit. That he's got a younger son. I mean, they've done these kind of passing of the torch movies before, and they've never really panned out. But other than like maybe Star Trek Generations, but I guess maybe he knows that there's going to be a sixth one, but he's not going to be a part of it. Maybe it's going to be Jai Courtney.
Oh man, but we were talking about this before the show. Did you get a chance to come up with a possible name for Die Hard 6?
Oh man,
I was thinking since Die Hard 2 is subtitled Die Harder, maybe it's Die Hardest.
If they make a Die Hard 6, if they're committed to it, I would like to see them go full circle, maybe. And maybe it's McClane back at Nakatomi Plaza. And it's now he's old, and the building is much more high-tech, and he's much more out of his element. I don't know. And Die Hard again. And
maybe he's in a submarine.
I'd like him to bring his wife back. That's at least one thing I'd like to see happen in 6. I know she's busy making Parenthood or whatever. But I don't know. I'd like to see it go back to basics. Really, like, put him in closed quarters, in over his head, no help, no one believes him. Yeah, that's what I'd like to see for Die Hard 6. Don't have a funny title for it, though.
Oh, man. I don't know. Would we have to redo the entire franchise flashback if this movie comes to be?
I could watch Die Hard at least every couple years. Once we're getting to these later ones, you might have to do more persuading. But I'll probably buy a ticket to Die Hard 6. Who am I kidding? But with that, we're not going to talk about Die Hard right away. Let's transition to our feature review for the week, the new thriller, Side Effects.
I loved everything about him. His hands, the way he smelled. He swept me off my feet.
I can get us back to where we were, Em. I promise. I can make that happen.
You remember this beautiful lady here?
Hi.
How have things been going with you?
I can finally sleep. I have some energy. We had sex.
Whoever makes this drug is going to be rich.
911, what's your emergency?
I need help. Someone's been murdered.
A psychiatrist finds himself in hot water after he prescribes a young woman antidepressants that come with unexpected and dangerous side effects.
I'll put her on a Blixa.
I don't think you should be my doctor anymore.
I think she requires more observation.
Someone gets punished.
It's all gonna go away.
It's gonna follow you around forever.
I had no idea this was going on.
Stop! There were millions of dollars!
You've been lying to her, and he was lying to me.
I would never be here if it weren't for you.
I want my life back!
You know I'm not crazy.
Everyone knows everything.
Em, are you awake?
Destroy that before it destroys you.
Pat, I tried really hard not to talk about how this is going to be Steven Soderbergh's final film, but I do anyway, so apologies. Steven Soderbergh is a director who has always ping-ponged between tentpole crowd pleasers like the Ocean series and art house experiments like Bubble or The Girlfriend Experience. He's never been a predictable director, and he's ending his career in a similar fashion with a handful of films that seem to have very little in common. Last year, he came out with the action movie Haywire and the male stripper drama Magic Mike. This year, it's the upcoming Liberace biopic for HBO, and this, Side Effects, a small-scale thriller with a relatively modest-sized cast. If it seems like a rather impersonal project to end one's career on, at least he's working with friends for his swan song. Along with Rooney Mara, he reunites with several actors from earlier movies. Channing Tatum, who was in the directors Magic Mike and Haywire, Catherine Zeta-Jones from Traffic and Ocean's 12, and Jude Law from Contagion. Side Effects is also the third collaboration with screenwriter Scott Z. Burns, who wrote The Informant and the aforementioned Contagion. If we are to believe the man, and Side Effects is the last we're going to see his work on the big screen, is Side Effects a strong exit for Dr. Soderbergh, or would you prefer he had left you with a prescription of Ocean's 14?
I'm going to say neither, because I was really struggling with this movie for the duration, but at the same time, as much as I enjoy the easy to view, just as nice as Orange Juice, the Oceans, at least 11 and 13, I wouldn't want him to return to that franchise, or maybe even anything he's done before. It's just, this film was far more complicated and convoluted than it needed to be, and even at the parts that piqued my interest, say the early parts where he was talking about drugs and the prescription pharmaceutical industry, and it seemed to be kind of a play on everybody's on something, and they've all got something to talk about in the commercials. It didn't really grab me, and I don't know what it is. I thought the acting was fine. It had some interesting cuts. I think the problem is just really it was just too much thrown into this pie to make it taste good. And at the same time, I've really kind of grown tired of the Soderbergh, at least the last 4 or 5 movies since at least The Girlfriend Experience, shooting in digital, shooting with available light, and everything looking a little fudgy. Did you have a positive experience? Do you think this is a solid final film?
It's hard to say whether or not it's worthy, quote unquote, of being a final film because it does seem rather minor. But when you look at Soderbergh's career, he's never really done the expected. So to go out on a film that's just kind of a modest, very watchable, I think, thriller, it just kind of goes with the style of, whatever, I feel like shooting, I'm going to shoot. And I actually really did dig this film. And for the first half of it, I was a little cold. I went into this film pretty much, I mentioned this on the podcast, entirely cold. I hadn't seen any trailers. And I think that is the ideal way to see this film. That's why we're going to be talking around a lot of things. It is a film filled with twists, and it actually evolves throughout. Like, it changes genres almost.
Yes, it goes very noir.
Yeah, it goes noir. I think it's almost always a thriller, but it keeps you guessing on what kind of thriller it's going to be. Whether it's going to be this satiric thriller about just people talking about their drugs and comparing drugs, or if it's going to, like, for a while I was wondering if it was going to go the traffic route and go into the different people that are responsible for pharmaceuticals down to the people who take them and the doctors who prescribe them. And then it becomes, like, I don't want to spoil too much, but it becomes a legal thriller at times. And it's a kind of a Hitchcockian thriller, almost to a fault, the Hitchcockianness, if that is a way to say that.
My thinking was it was very similar to a movie that we reviewed, say in September, which was Arbitrage, where, it's like almost a cop drama at a certain point where it turns into what's the story here and how do all these people fit together and where do the strings connect and where do they break, and certain characters have to go down and discover what went wrong and why it went wrong. And I've seen the trailers and they were on TV all over the place.
I don't know what I was watching.
Well, at least they're in the Midwest, but they don't really tell you a whole bunch about the movie. And in fact, I'd say a majority of the trailers are completely a misdirect from what the movie is, and not in a negative way. Just they don't tell you what the meat of the story is, and I'm okay with that. I just felt like there was I can almost pinpoint it without giving too much away, but they get into Jude Law's backstory at a certain point, and very, very hard backstory, like how his past connects to where he is now and his relationship with Rooney Mara. And at that point, I was almost like, really, is this really where this is going to go? It seemed a little too buttoned up.
Okay, but thankfully it kind of goes past that. Like, it doesn't dwell on that for too long. That did annoy me a little bit. But when it became the part you kind of hinted about earlier, where it's about one character trying to pick apart the pieces, when it's kind of a mystery thriller, that's when it really started to grab me, and that's when I was in for the ride the whole time. It is ridiculous by the end. I think any thriller of this genre, of a certain genre, again, I'm just really talking around it, becomes really silly when you discuss what actually happens in the movie. And this would not hold up to close scrutiny, the plots and the plot and the contrivances within that plot. But as a watchable thriller, I think this is pretty darn good. I really enjoyed it. Whether or not, it's up there with Soderbergh's best work, I don't know. But it's certainly some of the best I've seen of certain cast members, like best I've seen, probably seen Zeta Jones. I think the most I've liked Rooney Mara, more so than maybe the girl with the dragon tattoo. Tatum is the best when he's in these Soderbergh films. So I don't know. I thought this was a really enjoyable film.
I was kind of off-put by Rooney Mara for the majority of it. I didn't really feel like felt she was kind of hiding behind what is supposed to be a depressed person. I didn't feel like there was much to what she was giving us other than this certain aspect of obviously what she's dealing with. And then of course, by the time she's one of the few, she's there all the way throughout the movie, and you get to know a little more about her. But by the time that the third act comes around and the climax of the film, I think I actually liked her more towards the end. But during the heap of it, it kind of played out in at least her portrayal in a way that I wasn't totally in on.
I think it does need to grow on you. It is a challenge, I believe, to portray depression on screen. And I noticed this when watching Melancholia with Kirsten Dunst, a character who is depressed the whole film. And it's really off-putting. And she was getting praised for the performance, but she annoys you the whole time.
Yes.
So I do think that it's just, maybe that's a thing that's true with portraying that kind of character. And that's when I was most frustrated with the Rooney Mara character, as well as when she was moping around that first act.
It was pretty interesting how the first half of the film deals very heavily with prescription drugs, and you can just tell just by the amount of prescription drugs they're showing you that it almost is kind of like a Contagion style layout of this happens and this happens, and it's almost very heavily themed, not to the point of, say, my favorite film from last year,
Killing them softly.
Yeah, it's not exactly killing them softly with how blunt it is, but I just felt like at that point, if this is what this movie is going to be and how heavy it is, it was just off-putting. And I think that you said the first half was not necessarily something that grabbed you.
No, not at all. It wasn't until it shifted gears a little bit into more ridiculous thriller territory, and it became a little more fun that I started to enjoy it. Yeah, exactly. But let me ask you this: Soderbergh, do you actually think he's gonna retire after this film?
People have said, at least since I heard he was going to retire, several actors said that he is an artist. He's not necessarily a filmmaker. So he has other, pots on the stove that he's going to start working a little harder on and doing some sort of installation art, I guess. But I have a hard time believing any of these guys who say they're retiring, especially as young as Soderbergh, Kevin Smith, or maybe even Tarantino, that they could actually stick to it and they'll someday come back with something they just have to put on celluloid, or I guess at that point have to put on a hard drive.
I'm kind of with you there. Soderbergh is only 50, and I think he wants to paint or something. He also wants to do plays. I guess he's also a playwright. And he says he's leaving the game because can't think of any new ways to bring narrative stories to the screen or whatever. But I think it's just going to take that shift in technology. Obviously, he's not a director who's embraced 3D or anything. But I think maybe if something new comes along, a new device, I think it's going to be hard for him to resist. It might be 10 years. Maybe he just needs a break. I mean, he's done like 2 films a year for as long as I can.
He did 3 films for 2011, if you consider the last time I saw Michael Gregg.
Oh, yeah. And there's also, documentaries he does that people forget about. I know he had that Spalding Gray one as well. So, yeah, I mean, he's just a guy who likes to keep busy. So I imagine we'll see him again. Even though if he's an artist, I still am struggling to figure out how he's an auteur. Like, I know there are signature characteristics to his film, especially like in establishing shots and transition shots and his use of color. But I don't know if there's ever been a true thread that's continued into the 2000s and the 2010s. I could see his early career is very much about the image you put out to the world, and maybe that is it. But I don't know. I still struggle as an auteur theorist to put Soderbergh in that little can, if you will.
Yeah, well, he definitely had, as opposed to Kevin Smith, I've been listening to Smodcast because he recently interviewed Ryan Johnson. He was talking about how many directors hit with a flash, like he hit with Clerks and Ryan Johnson hit with Brick. And of course, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, I think, is one of the films that kind of set up Sundance for being what it is, because it was one of the very first independent films that went on to do something. At least on a major stage, or people generally saw it at home with a VHS player. But Soderbergh's career has kind of had, hits like that, even if they were popcorn films like Ocean's 12. But, I mean, didn't he win an Oscar for Traffic?
He won Best Director for Traffic.
Yeah, and there was obviously Aaron Brockovich, which I always forget he directed.
That was the same year as Traffic, too. He was nominated for like 2 films, I think. Best Director for 2 different films.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And he can't win it because he was up against himself. So I don't know. Are you sad to see him go if he doesn't come back?
He's just always an interesting figure to have out there in the cinematic world, I think, because he would put out 2 films. He makes Woody Allen look lazy with his output. And it was always, something different that you wouldn't expect, like this Liberace thing, Beyond the Candelabra, that apparently was too gay for the studio, so he had to go to HBO with it. I don't know. I will miss him, just to have weird things like Haywire or The Girlfriend Experience that no one else would really make, and probably I wouldn't bother to see without someone like Soderbergh's name attached to it, to be honest.
I don't know. I've always been kind of hot and cold on him, so I'll be interested to... I don't know if I'll care if he comes back unless it's some sort of, mega film. But I always think of... I remember reading an interview about why he was leaving, and at one of the part in the interview, he said, if I ever have to look at another over-the-shoulder shot, again, I'm going to kill myself. And then I could just hear in my head, like David Lynch saying, he's like, so don't shoot that shot. It's like, but you mentioned Haywire, and this movie kind of felt like a mix of Haywire and Contagion, just with the style and the story threads. And I kind of felt like, why put out 2 films a year if this is the way that it's going to be? If you're going to retire, do it before you give us these films that I don't generally care for this movie. So I don't think he's actually going to do it. He'll be back.
Okay, well, obviously I liked Side Effects a lot more than you did.
Yes, I'd say I recommend it at some point if you see it on the stand, the video store and the Redbox. You have nothing else to do. At some point you'll see it. I can't hold you against that.
All right, Side Effects is rated R for sexuality, nudity, violence, and language. When we come back, we'll talk about what's new on DVD. Keep listening. New on DVD this week, February 12th. Rent a DVD for your Valentine's Day. Of new releases, you get to choose from Bully. That's very romantic. The documentary about bullying. Maybe even more romantic, Man with the Iron Fist, the directorial debut of the Riza.
I do want to see how a man puts his hands into iron gloves, bare skin on molten iron, and how he survives.
I am very curious about Man with the Iron Fist. I don't regret not seeing it in the theater, but I probably will rent it at my next opportunity.
It's the What Was Russell Crowe Thinking movie.
Maybe. Perks of Being a Wallflower, which was kind of a modest hit, I hear, among some people.
I think a lot of people dig it for its screenplay. I haven't seen it, but that might be the romantic film to see this Valentine's Day.
Yeah, kidding aside, that might be it. I know there was again, I keep mentioning that I'm TAing, but we went through class talking about what all our favorite film was, kind of an icebreaker or whatever, and one of the students said Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I never would have expected that. I'm like, yeah, it's probably one of those things where my favorite movie is the last one I ever saw.
Yeah, that's suspicious.
Didn't mean to pick on you, Charles. Skyfall, obviously, big Bond movie, and Silent Hill, Revelation, both ideal for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, maybe if you're having like a Rob Zombie style Valentine's Day, this is the year for you.
Pat, did you check out anything on DVD or home video streaming?
Oh, yes.
On demand?
It's been a bad week for movies. I didn't get a chance to see many, but then I watched, first I'll say I watched Wanderlust, which before it came out, I was kind of excited to see it because I'm such a huge fan of The State.
Yes.
And it was directed by David Wayne, who was one of the main writers for The State, and also written by Ken Marino. And David Wayne and Ken Marino is my favorite member of The State. And so years ago, I remember I was following somebody's blog. I think it was Ken Marino's when he had a blog, and he was talking about how Rob Corddry was supposed to be in the movie, playing the Paul Rudd character. And
really?
I was saying I didn't like Rob Corddry even then. I mean, I'm more of a fan of him now, but I was really excited to see what Ken Marino was doing. And then this movie comes out, and I finally see it, and it is terrible. Oh, it's not good. I mean, there are some chuckles in there, but overall, it is just garbage. And there are no redeeming qualities, and I can't recommend it for anybody. So we also watched The Words. And for those who don't know, this is the Jeremy Irons, Bradley Cooper, Zoe Saldana movie that came out in September. Immediately just fell to the bottom of the fish tank. And it's there's some interesting parts in it, but there's a Dennis Quaid like story arc in this movie that I did not know was involved. And by the time that is resolved at the end of the film, it pretty much ruins anything that the movie had going for it. And it was just not fun to watch. I think I'll just stick to until I finish my Star Trek Deep Space Nine viewing. I may not be able to report on a good movie until then. Jacob, did you have any better luck than me?
Yeah, I did actually, and I had spent some actual additional time in the movie theater for once. Usually I'm having to catch up on things on Netflix. I saw the Academy Award live action shorts.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, that was really fun. I don't think The Batch was as good as previous years where I've seen them. It's just a lot of weird films this year. I will say what I think. I'm going to pick a winner right now. I think Buzkashi Boys is going to win it. That's the Iranian. No, it's the Afghani/US co-production, and it has little kids in it, and it's kind of sad. And so, with your Oscar pools, I would say the safe bet is Buzkashi Boys. The other one would be Assad. I could see winning. That's kind of I think that was a South African co-production about some Somalians and some Somali pirates and a young boy. That sounds like a typical Oscar short film. And the one that they'll show the 5 seconds of and people will be like, I want to see that one, will be Death of a Shadow, because it's got this cool cyberpunk look, but it's the least of the 5 films. I actually would say that one was pretty bad. So keep your eyes open for Oscar night for Buzkashi Boys.
Interesting.
Winning.
So it's not like what was that one from a couple years ago where every franchise logo in the world was in it and it ended up winning the Oscar?
That was Logorama, I think. That was animated. I haven't seen any of the animated shorts.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
But usually they're a little more entertaining. They're also showing those where I'm at, and hopefully I will get to see them. But I imagine Paperman's going to win anyway, so it's not so much of a, feel like I'm missing out too much. I also saw Mama, the new horror film, which I think is probably the best film I've seen so far in 2013, which puts it just above Sound City and The Last Stand, and I guess Side Effects. So it's not really saying a lot, but it's really good at what it sets out to do, which is be a creeper, genuine creeper. I'm someone who's fairly immune to the horror movies at this point. Like I've talked about on the show how watched a lot in my high school days or whatever. But this one genuinely creeped me out. It does some new things with the creepy kid thing. Scary kids are a little played out, but they find a way to genuinely do something new with it, I think. So I do recommend Mama. I don't know who directed it. I can't remember his name, but it's produced by Guillermo del Toro, and it's got that whole fairy tale as horror film thing going on for that. So if you don't want to see it in the theater because you're too scared of the dark, it'll be just as scary as at home, I think. So I recommend Mama. It's
not a Norbert situation where this movie's going to completely ruin her chance at an Oscar.
Oh, Jessica Chastain? No, she's good in it, and she looks fantastic in it. To be a sexist dude for a while, she plays total goth Jessica Chastain, and it's a good look for her. I'll say that.
Well, now we know Jacob's tastes. Maybe we should just keep moving on to the next installment of John McClane.
Yes, let's go to our FWOAC franchise flashback: Live Free or Die Hard.
I'm doing America a favor. Is the country willing to pay for it?
FAA just issued a critical alert. The entire network went down.
Transportation system's crashing and they just hit the entire financial sector.
You have no idea who you're dealing with.
I'll take it from here.
After 12 years walking the beat, John McClane returns to save the day as super hackers try to derail the USA on the 4th of July.
Officer McClane, I need you to behave.
Daddy.
What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna go kill this guy and get my daughter. Or go get my daughter and kill this guy. Or kill all of them.
4 films into the adventures of John McClane, we find our favorite everyman once again saving the day. Now, last year, Jacob, a little film by the name of Skyfall saw James Bond battle the digital world and won mass acclaim for it, which is quite funny because John McClane's battle with the super hackers 5 years earlier, Live Free or Die Hard, was met with quite the opposite. I'll save my rewatch opinions for my turn during the FWOAC franchise flashback, but Jacob, take us all the way back to 2007 and your memories of John McClane, Part 4.
Oh, 2007. What a bygone era. I actually remember this film relatively fondly. I never hated it as much as other people did. I remember people grumbling about it because Len Wiseman was directing it, and at that point he had only done the Underworld films, and it was rated PG-13. But I remember giving it the benefit of the doubt, and I remember seeing it in theaters and liking it. But to be honest, before popping it in for this, I didn't remember anything about it, so I must not have thought too highly of it. How about you?
I didn't see it in the theater mainly because Justin Long?
Yeah, Justin Long.
Yeah, I've never really liked him in very much. Even Ed, the TV show Ed, which I kind of had a thing for its first season about 12 years ago. But when I did eventually see it on streaming online in about 2008 or 9, I kind of thought it was wretched.
Oh,
And it almost kind of soured me on the idea of if this was going forward, because there were still people talking about the franchise moving forward. And I am going into the next movie with a bit of hesitation. It's hard to drop. But I don't know. And moving right into the next question, was it better or worse than remembered? It's hard to remember exactly how much I didn't like it, because I'm not a huge, Die Hard fan. Some guys are like, Die Hard, the best movie ever. And there was a time where I've said it several times where I thought that the third and first movie were the best movies ever made. But I've since grown up, and I think it is worse than I remember. Just,
oh, really? Oh, man.
Just the manner in which everything happens in the first part of the film, and this... It's another movie where I think this movie has kind of ruined a lot of other films that are similar to it, where the U.S. government cannot handle anything and they're not prepared for anything. And of course, John McClane is the guy that comes to save the day. And even he's always been, quippy and witty and throws in little fun one-liners, but it seems like everything that he says in this movie is extremely forced. And there are scenes in this. Okay, I'll save it for the weakest part. But
Okay.
I'm going a little bit of a rant here, but I say it's worse. Are you better or worse?
I was just struck by its mediocrity this time. I think in some ways it was better than I remembered, but on the whole it was worse. And watching it in quick succession with the other diehards, I can definitely see how this feels the least like a part of the series than the others. For one thing, it doesn't have that high concept that the other ones have so much. It just has it's just John McClane versus computers. That's not as fun as John McClane is stuck in an airport, or terrorists take over an airport, or terrorists take over a building, or the scavenger hunt concept. It's just kind of generic action filmy. I will say, I do think it's probably the best film Len Wiseman has made yet, though. I will go ahead and say I think it's better than Total Recall from last year. And Underworld, whatever's that I've seen. So getting right into the best part, I'll go first since I'm the optimist here about Die Hard 4. I think there are things I liked. I kind of like the action sequences more than a lot of people. But I'd say my favorite thing were probably the women in this movie. I really liked Elizabeth, or I'm going to screw up her name because I only wrote it down her last name, Winstead. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, that's it. She had a small role, but I liked her presence and how it allowed us to see a different side of John McClane. And I liked Maggie Q's henchwoman. And I actually kind of wished she was the main villain and that there was like a male muscle, and she could have... I think that would have been kind of the twist that would have made this movie a little better if Maggie Q had the bigger role and was the main bad guy. And we'll get into that probably more anyway. But what do you say is the best and weakest parts? Say something nice before you bring out the
Maybe
knives.
I'll give a little backhanded compliment with my nice then. I think the best part is, without any sort of joking at all, the Kevin Smith scene. Because if you're going to jump the shark and go into super hacker territory, you're going to have a character named the Warlock, who for some reason is the only person who can operate the internet or a phone at this juncture in complete chaotic fire sale USA. Why not have it be Kevin Smith? And of course, he's not a great actor. I mean, I've seen him on TV shows and everything just be the Kevin Smith character, but it was funny. I'm okay with that. And that scene alone almost seems like it could have been a sketch, like a sketch comedy bit where Kevin Smith's sitting in his basement on the computer and suddenly John McClane busts in and they have a conversation about what's wrong. But I like that scene just for the sheer ridiculousness of where the movie has gone at that point. And the weakest part, I don't know. There's just a lot of things that are wrong with the film, obviously, but I think the tone is completely different. If just looking at the way the camera moves in this film, it's like the camera is constantly moving in just a generic action movie sense, where it's like reaching of hands into the shot and the sweeping crane shot as he's climbing up stairs. And of course, the action scenes are completely over the top and not even... I don't want to go into why. All you have to say is parkour, and you know that something is wrong with this movie.
I think that's a problem of the film just being made so much later than the last one. Action films have just changed so much in their look, but the parkour is inexcusable. That's just something of its time that completely will date it going forward. But any other vitriol you want to spit out?
Nah, you can't say everything's the weakest part. Otherwise, nothing's the weakest part. So, what about you, Jacob?
I just think the sense of humor and the sources for the sense of humor in this film were pretty weak. I think Justin Long is pretty unfunny. I think in the second half of the film, he doesn't try to be funny anymore until maybe the very end, but the first half, he's pretty unbearable. I didn't feel the same positive feelings you did about Kevin Smith, but you almost won me over on it by the way you said warlock. It made me realize how ridiculous it probably is. And in the past, the humor has always come from John McClane or the villain, and I don't think McClane was particularly wisecracky, or at least effectively. And Timothy Olyphant, who is an actor I really like, he on Justified, which is probably my favorite TV show at the moment, he's charismatic and very, very funny with the right material. And I think he's totally, I don't know if he's wasted here with the role or if he's just horrible in it. I don't know what he was going for. I think maybe the only way I can justify the performance is that if he decided to made an actor choice to put this guy on the autism spectrum somehow. He just stares a lot and he gives nothing. And that was really disappointing for me because I was hoping that revisiting this film, being a fan of Oliphant, I thought maybe I'd have more fun with his role, and I did not.
So what about the resonation? Did anything resonate with you that on this viewing that you didn't think about in previous films?
You know, it's 5 years. It's 5 years old, roughly, and I think it already feels dated more than some of the previous films do. I think that comes with any time you're dealing with a technology plot or whatever.
Completely agree.
Yeah, and also the choices of incidental pop music. I know the first one has Christmas in Harlem, but the music in this is much more dated, and the parkour especially. That's just yeah. That said, I remember at the time seeing it, thinking that the computer plot was totally unbelievable. I think in 5 years, so much more has gone to computers that I could almost believe that he could control the traffic lights, where in 2007 I thought that was completely implausible. How about you?
You know, and I agree. That was kind of what I was thinking. It seemed like this movie was borrowing so much from bad television, where it's the whole problem with can you enhance that picture, zoom in and enhance, and obviously there's a little bit of the Italian Job with a little more of a terrorist style streak, where they're changing the traffic lights for to cause the fire sale. But that just seemed to resonate with me, that there's nothing really in this movie that feels like it's a Die Hard film, where it's one man and something that seems plausible that one man could take on. And that does the dating of the film with its technology makes it seem like it's against what these movies seem to be about, where it's this guy is doing something that you have to do that only he could do. And obviously, like I said, James Bond is kind of veered into that as well, that he's almost like a team member. And at this time in this film, you would imagine that John McClane would have to be a team member to do what he has to do. And he's this is a two-hander. Him and Justin Long are carrying this film. It's not John McClane alone, taking the show for where it is. And I guess With a Vengeance was a two-hander, so to speak, with him and Samuel L. Jackson, but it's a little worse here. It's not the John McClane show. And I think that was kind of the thing that made these movies plausible for a reason, is that they were fun and at the same time a good action movie. I don't know.
It did strike me with this one before any of the others that James Bond has a reason to go on these missions. He gets sent on them. Same with Ethan Hunt in the Mission Impossible movies. He's an agent. He's supposed to go looking for trouble. John McClane just stumbles into these. Like, I guess that's kind of the joke, but then he's riding on jets and all these things that secret agents and superheroes should be doing. Even though I kind of liked the truck and jet scene more this rewatch than I did in the theater, but it's still pretty ridiculous.
Well, they had the scene where he was driving off the cop car, and he was going to crash into the helicopter, and he's swearing the whole time about how does it keep happening to me. It's like, why are they writing this in? It's almost like there were certain parts in the film that Rian Johnson watched and said, okay, I can't do this in Looper. I can't explain hacking I can't explain time travel like they explain hacking here every other time there's something that needs to be explained. And I can't have him say, oh, it's stupid, this, that, and the other thing about my previous adventures. So, I don't know. Does this movie add to the story or mythology of the entire John McClane arc?
Well, I've noticed that McClane's personal life gets worse and worse with each successive film, with the exception of Die Hard 2, where he was reconciling with his wife. First, they're separated. Now they're divorced in that, and he's not speaking with his daughter. I imagine in the next one, like, his son will be pissed off at him, and his wife will be dead or something. I don't know. I'm curious to see how they make his personal life worse. Anything that you noticed at all?
That's exactly what I noticed. Is his life is very much like bad television, where I can't constantly tell Marita, who is my wife, who's a big fan of Grey's Anatomy and Private Practice, that you can't watch those shows because all they ever do, because they're serialized, is they ruin every character's life. I remember the first time I noticed bad television being bad television was my mom and I used to watch ER every week until I was probably a sophomore in high school. And Dr. Green on that show, he dies eventually, and I'm not going to spoiling the show a little bit, I guess, but that's years before it ends. And before that, they kill his dad, they kill his mom, they give him cancer, they have him beat up. His wife, who divorces him, dies. A couple of his kids die. It's like everything that's possibly could go wrong goes wrong, and that's what they do to John McClane here. It's like, do you really need to do that? Couldn't they every other movie have them back together? I would have liked that maybe a little more, or maybe if Holly was the person who was along for the ride. So I'd say that it does add, but not in a good way.
And he also flies helicopters now after being scared to fly. And maybe they even addressed that. I can't remember. Maybe my brain turned off a little bit at that point.
Well, pushing to the next question, if this movie were made today, what would be changed? Obviously, the technology would be updated. And I'm pretty sure if they made this movie and then Len Weissman got in a time machine, came to the future, erased it, and then came to the future and made a new one, he would probably take out all that technology because it's just too much. So I'm a little interested to see if A Good Day to Die Hard is kind of, forgives that stuff, and they don't have a whole bunch of hackers and cell phones and lights being changed and airplanes being crashed or whatever.
Hopefully the setting of Russia will lead to a more not that I'm saying Russia is a Luddite society or anything, but maybe that they're hoping America thinks that, and so really strips down the technology. It'll be interesting to see. I don't really have much to add other than that. I'll just ask you, I think it's pretty obvious, but where do you think this film ranks in the franchise?
The basement.
This
is the worst. Yeah, this is the fourth out of the four we've seen, and unless A Good Day to Die Hard is pretty bad, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the fifth.
You've almost convinced me that I'm going to sound stupid saying this, but I have it ranked just above Die Hard 2. So
really?
1, 3, 4, 2. I just think it's slightly more stylish. I think the scheme the villain has, it's a little more interesting. There's a variety in the action set pieces from the I don't know. I'm not making a good argument at this point, but I don't know. I felt bored less watching this than Die Harder a few weeks ago. But
I don't know if I agree. I mean, there's no being exploded out of a helicopter and whatever.
And he doesn't have an awesome sweater in Live Free or Die Hard either. So I'm questioning my own logic.
There's no Twinkie jokes in this movie either.
Oh, and there's no Alan. Yeah, never mind. This is the bottom one. I should give Die Hard 2 points just for at least the Reginald Vell Johnson cameo. Live Free or Die Hard is on DVD and Blu-ray in both PG-13 and unrated versions. The unrated version does add a couple extra F words. That's the version I watched this week. That's all I can add to it. When we come back, we're going to wrap up this show. Don't delete us yet. We have more to say. Pat, earlier in the show, I did not mention that I saw a new documentary, new to streaming anyway, The Invisible War, a film you had seen as well, right?
Yes, it leaves a really bad taste in your mouth. But obviously, after reading your posts on Facebook, I did not have as big a problem with the subject matter as you did.
Yeah, I posted. It took me 3 times to finish it because it just got my blood boiling to seeing the injustices on the screen. It's ultimately a very effective film. I was I wasn't a fan of Kirby Dick before this film. I didn't really care for this film. It's not yet rated. So it totally won me over. Anyway, I posted on Facebook. And...
Wait, can I ask you real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
After you saying it took you 3 times and it was so powerful, is that what's going to make it win the Oscar?
I also caught up with Searching for Sugar Man this weekend, and that's the feel-good documentary in the category. So it's really a question of which emotion's going to win out with the Oscar voters. Anger and disappointment in our nation, or feel good, inspirational drama. I think it's between those two.
Well, like I said a couple of weeks ago, though, the documentary section is where people like to let their politics out. So, liberal Hollywood.
Of the four I've seen out of the 5, Invisible War is probably my favorite, and it's probably the one I am rooting to win now.
All right.
But anyway, I posted on Facebook that I had these issues finishing that film, and friend Doug Little wrote in. He said, "Okay, I'm just going to come out and say it. You have to stop all the movie-related posts and just stop podcasting too. In the last month, I've watched Argo, Celeste and Jesse Forever, Killer Joe, Les Miserables, Primer, VHS, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, The Hobbit, Ted, Cabin in the Woods, and Bad Taste. And now I have to add this one to the list of movies to see, which is too large to list here. Most of these I would have never seen if it weren't for you and your meddling podcast. How dare you, sir? How dare you?"
Now,
So, Pat,
is he just angry because he ended that string of movies with Bad Taste?
I don't know. He didn't say he liked any of those movies.
That's true. Maybe he hated them all. That's why he wants us to stop.
So I want to make the announcement now, Pat. We are not going to talk about movies anymore on the podcast. We're going straight to being about spoken word poetry.
Oh, I thought you were going to say we were going to review the candy and popcorn in the lobby of theaters.
Oh, that's an even better idea. I like that.
That is super niche podcasting.
The theater I go to charges $5 for a small soda. $5.
Yeah, forget that nonsense.
That's ridiculous. I know that's how they make their money, but anyway, I want to thank Doug, even though he was angry. I do want to know what he thought about Primer, actually. I'm always curious what people say about that. But if other people want to reach out and virtually strangle us, what can they do, Pat?
Well, there's several options. First, Twitter. That's easy, quick to the point. Filmcast WOAC is our handle, Filmcast WOAC. That is also our Gmail account, filmcastwoac@gmail.com. And of course, if you want to leave a big long rant in your own review, you can do that on either the FWOAC phone, 515-412-0737, or on Filmcast Without a Cause. Leave a comment on either of those, and you'll make it on the show as long as they're nice on the phone. Because no one wants to hear F words left and right on the show. So that's how you can get in touch with us. Jacob, I think people can guess what we're seeing next week, but what else is coming out in theaters?
Well, it is the weekend of February 15th, Valentine's Day weekend. So, of course, you have a whole selection of horrible movies to choose from. There's the horrible-looking Twilight knockoff, Beautiful Creatures. The horrible-looking cartoon, Escape from Planet Earth. The horrible-looking Nicholas Sparks adaptation, Safe Haven. And A Good Day to Die Hard. So we're going to be reviewing A Good Day to Die Hard. And if you see any of those other films and they're not horrible, please do what Pat just said and get a hold of us.
But if you were to see something outside of finishing up the FWOAC franchise flashback with the Die Hard film, which of those three would you drag me to?
Oh no! On the ads for Safe Haven, the hashtag is Safe Haven Secret, and I want to know what the secret is.
It's a Nicholas Sparks movie. They've all got a secret. Somebody's probably got a disease.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I had my wife go on the Wikipedia because I didn't want to do it myself. She got sick of me talking about the Safe Haven secret, that she went on Wikipedia and read the synopsis for the book or whatever, and she still couldn't tell me. Like, she said, I guess the secret is that she's running from an abused boyfriend. I'm like, that's in the trailer. That's not a secret. Whatever.
I thought it was some sort of legal issue.
Oh, maybe. Oh,
it just doesn't make any sense. What's with all the sirens and whatnot?
So that's what I think. There's a fire at some point in the trailer as well. It's a weird trailer because they have Safe Haven written throughout, like on the bottom. But like the trailer, when I saw it with side effects this week, the trailer began with Safe Haven, the title card, and then it showed the trailer. I'm talking way too much about Safe Haven, but obviously I'm a little obsessed. So that would be my pick. What would you choose out of, if not Die Hard? Would it be Safe Haven?
Maybe I'd go for the visual effects of Beautiful Creatures, just because it looks like the graphics in it are going to be something on par with, I don't even know, just something over the top graphics wise. And I'm okay with that if I have to see a movie forced to.
And it's got Jeremy Irons in it. So,
yeah,
if for some reason Good Day to Die Hard gets pulled from the schedule, you'll be hearing us fighting over whether we're going to see Beautiful Creatures or Safe Haven on Valentine's Day. But for this week, I'm Jacob Rosdale.
And I'm Patrick Boberg.
Thanks for listening.
That's a wrap.
I almost said watching, and then when listening came out, listening. Oh boy, that's a wrap.
I'm finished.